everyone, how's everyone doing this evening? I'm going to do a little video here of something that's, a topic that's fairly controversial in the hobby industry. So, little drama alert when it comes to that topic here, but I think everyone's going to resonate with what we're discussing here because it's one of the things that's most discussed when it comes to decals and printing and accuracy, you name it. And that's colors. A lot of people have opinions on the right and wrong way to do this when it comes to selecting colors for painting and decal printing. So I'm going to give you guys a little inside baseball on how this is done over here at Two Bobs, and honestly, pretty much how it's done in the industry. There is no other way to do this. So I'm going to dig deep a little bit into this whole process. So bear with me, it's probably going to be a little longish of a video, but I think it's important for you guys to know what goes into the color selection when it comes to a decal sheet. So as you guys know, we do modern military aircraft here. So because of that, there is a federal standard 595B and the US anyways for military aircraft. So more often than not, colors that are selected adhere to this standard, okay? So let's just use that as a baseline, that is the, basically everything is spun off of that as the understood standard when it comes to colors, okay? And how does that translate to a model decal and model paint in general? So let's discuss that. So some tools that we use here when it comes to selecting the right color is obviously the reference material that we have in regards to a specific aircraft. So let's talk about Air Force aircraft generically. So out of all the services in the U.S. Government, the Air Force is probably the most standardized in the colors they select and how they paint aircraft. Navy tends to be fast and loose, but even they are adhering to more of a standardized color palette than they used to in the past. So with that in mind, let's look at the tools that we use here when it comes to color selection. So I think a lot of us are familiar with this, the 595B fan deck. So this is something that I don't know if these are available online anymore. There was a time when you could order them off of GSA, and then they became crazy expensive. And I think you can get them nowadays. I haven't looked for one in forever. I've had this one for, geez, close to 20 years since Two Bobs got started. So, so in here are all the colors that the federal standard palette is, from gloss to semi-gloss to flat. So I'm not going to get into the numbering scheme on what the first digit, second digit means. I think we're all familiar with what this guy does. So the British, the Japanese, every European Western country has a palette that's somewhat like this. Now how they put that in a fan deck or a book or something, I have no idea, but let's talk about 595B. So that's item one. This is the baseline, okay? Everything spins off of this as far as color selection. The next thing we have is your Pantone fan deck. Now, why is this important? Okay, Pantone inks are the inks that are used to print decals. Because decals are screen printed, they're not printed a la 4-color offset like a CMYK or RGB properties. Just like you would print a t-shirt, the colors are spot colors. They're not mixed with any other color. So there is a specific Pantone equivalent for a specific color. So if you looked at like house paint or any dye that goes into clothing, etc., this is where it starts. And then companies that want to massage that color and make it unique to themselves, they mix and blend, but they all start with spot colors. So here's the other standard that's used in decal printing. And then you got something like this, which is, I'm using microscale here because this is what I have. So microscale, as well as the other decal printer, they have these color chips of colors that they use over and over again that they know that decal printers and designers like to use. So they come up with a list. There's no standard to it. It's just like, hey man, here's how we do the colors that we get asked for a lot. So if you look at here's the front of it, obviously. The back of it has some Pantone equivalent colors in regards to, this is the Pantone color, right? Which is this guy that we use to print a specific red, blue, green, pick a color, whatever, okay? Not standard. This is the printer's interpretation of the color that's in the 595B standard. Okay, so When it comes to printing decal sheets, how do we select colors? Okay, so assuming, and this is a correct assumption, that actually this is an assumption, it's fact, there is no decal printer out there in the world, in the Milky Way, that has Pantone ink colors that are perfectly matched to FS. There's no such thing. That is an impossibility. A lot of printers will say that they can mix and match those colors. They get pretty dang close. Some colors better than others, but there's no perfect match. No one has a 50-gallon drum of FS36375 sitting in a printer that they dump on a screen printing machine and print decal sheets. Doesn't happen. They also can't take CMYK or RGB equivalents and come up with an ink like a 4-color offset printer, because like I said earlier, printers that print decal sheets are not 4-color offset printers like you would get in a traditional print house. These are spot colors, okay? So, how do they get close-ish? How do we designate what colors it is that we want them to print? Okay, there's two ways that we can do this as decal printers. I'm looking at one of my sheets here. Let's see here. Let's talk about this F15 sheet, the Vampire batch sheet that just came out. So there's not a lot of colors on this one because it's an Air Force subject outside of the nose art. But something simple as fin flashes, okay? So the other variable is this. This fin flash, like the Wing King Jet, is blue, red, white, orange, and green. Okay? So what red, what blue, what white, what orange, what green. You can assume that these colors are probably an FS match, but that's not 100% true. You really have to look at your references, and then even that has some variables based on, was it taken in the hangar, was it taken out in the sun? You don't know what you don't know because you weren't in the paint barn when they mixed these colors. And trust me, these guys, they custom blend colors all the time. Okay? So we can make some assumptions here as to what colors I'm selecting based on the pictures that I have and what I know about the federal standard. So, you know, I'm looking at these colors that I selected here. So for the blue, 15042, which is insignia blue. For the red, 11136, which is insignia red. Orange, 12197, which is international orange. And then for green, traditional green, like the FS standard green, did not match the green that was on the fin flash. So in that instance, I called out a Pantone color that I felt matched the green and the fin flash the closest. This is what happens when we're selecting colors. If I don't have an FS match specifically for a color, I don't call it out on my artwork. I call out a Pantone color. Okay, so what does a printer do when he receives this artwork? What they do is this. They will mix and blend what they believe is a match for, as an example, 15042 insignia blue. Is it insignia blue? No, it's not. It's as close as they can get to insignia blue, but it's not matched to FS595B exactly. They have the same tools that we have. They have one of these guys, and they have one of these guys. It is their interpretation of what that insignia blue is. Now, since they do this for a living, do they get close? Sure they do. But is it exact? Absolutely not. Okay? And I can say the same for every other FS color that we designate to print. Now, they will print the FS color if I tell them I want this FS color printed. But I'm really leaving it up to them to match it. I don't get to match that. They do it because they're in the business of printing. The Pantone colors, if I say Pantone 349, which in this instance is the green that's on that fin flash, they will go to the stock room, pull out a can of Pantone 349 because it's a spot color. It's in this fan deck. They will print that green exactly as it comes out of the quart of ink they have because that's a standard color in the Pantone library. Okay, so again, we really don't know exactly how close they get. They cite percentages as that will be like within 3%, 7%. Okay, based on what? Like, how do you even quantify that? There's no way to quantify the color accuracy of a color unless you do something like a color spectrometer, which essentially is this magic Ouija board looking thing where you have a piece of glass and you drag it around an image of something you've printed, and then you'll get your CMYK RGB values on a screen, and you a printer will take a sample sheet of paper off of a 4-color offset machine and see how close he is, okay? That's as good as it gets. And you can't do that in decal printing because, like I said earlier, there's no RGB or CMYK qualities to an ink color. It's all spot color, okay? So very different kind of color palette makeup. Okay, so we send this artwork to the printers, they print it. Okay, Squadron badges, Squadron wing insignia, things of that nature. Okay, and in some cases fin flashes and tailcode colors, something that's not black or not white. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the Gerber machines. So Gerber machines are the machines that the Squadrons use, and they use them in commercial industry to print stickers. So they will, it basically looks like a big giant plotter, and you can load artwork up and it'll print like a Squadron patch or something like that. Okay, so what colors are they printing these Squadron patches with? They're not Pantone, they're not FS, they are RGB or CMYK. Another variable. You're never going to have a patch Squadron wing insignia that is painted with specific FS colors unless there's a guy out there masking every single color in a Squadron patch and painting it, which doesn't happen. It's just way too much work to get that exactly right. And it's we're talking about a patch this big on a fuselage of an airplane. No one's going to waste the time to do that. They're going to upload artwork to this Gerber machine. It's going to poop out this sticker that's printed in all these colors. They're going to slap it on the airplane, and they're going to put clear coat around the edges so it doesn't peel in flight. These are not FS colors. These are not Pantone colors. They're RGB or CMYK colors. Okay? Totally different kind of print technology. So if we're selecting colors to match that, that's even more impossible because we can't. There's no such thing. So again, we get close as we can. Do we call out FS colors? Sure, if it's pretty close to that and it matches more to an FS and a Pantone, that's something that we decide, and we send that to the printers to print these colors, okay? Okay, so let's talk about model paints. If you're trying to match ink colors and decal colors to model paint, good luck. Forget it. All of us have used Tesla's Model Master. Lately I've been on this Mr. Paint kick, Hataka, dude, Mr. Color. There's so many different paint manufacturers out there, and we all know from experience that when we spray gray from one brand to the same FS gray to another brand, we line them all up on a piece of white paper. Do they match? They never do. So if you're trying to match decal printing inks, which aren't matched to FS, to a model paint that isn't matched to FS, now you've introduced another variable where nothing matches to anything. So there's no way we're ever going to print decal colors that match up model paint manufacturers' colors, because even that's suspect. The only thing that's standard is this guy, okay? And like I said before, no one can print an ink that matches these exactly. Everyone gets close as they can. Sometimes it's really off. There's some colors that are extremely difficult to match compared to other colors, that's a whole nother conversation. Yeah, it's hard. So when we build up artwork here at Two Bobs, I do my best to match as close as I can. I try to take as many variables out of the equation as I can. I tend to not want to leave it to the printers to select the colors for me. I did that when I first started out, and I don't do that anymore. I haven't done that in forever because, quite frankly, I think I know the subject matter and I have the references in front of me. I'm more intimate with the subject and the colors and the photos and all the variables than a decal printer would be. I mean, I'm one of 100 guys that sends artwork to them. They're not going to look at my artwork with any more of a discerning eye than anyone else. They're in the business of printing what I tell them to go print. So I've gotten away from that probably about 10 years ago, 12 years ago, and I've taken more of a hands-on approach to selecting FS colors and Pantones when it makes sense. But I'm still putting my life in their hands to a certain extent because I'm trusting them to mix a bunch of Pantone inks to get the correct insignia blue. Okay, so yeah, It's not perfect. It never will be. So I hope this was informative. Some of the terms you might not be familiar with, I tried to explain it as best as I could. But bottom line is this. Variable, variable, this is the standard. And like I said, no one prints to this. No one can match these colors. Everyone guesses, everyone thinks. If everyone could do it, all model paints would match, and they don't. If ink and decal printers can match it, they all would match, and they don't. So when you look at a decal sheet, not just mine, but any decal sheet, and you want to pick it apart and say it doesn't match a specific FS color or FS number, just remember they never will perfectly. There's too many variables involved. So, you know, I mean, let's be honest. You're going to weather the hell out of this thing anyways. I mean, is all that stuff going to go away? I mean, if you want to pick a decal color apart, I can make the same argument that model paint doesn't match, right? So think about that next time you look at a decal sheet. There's no wrong. There's levels of right. So, okay? All right, thanks. Hope this was helpful, and see you on the next video. Have a great day.